you're right and wrong. So right and wrong meaning this. I'm a risk taker in it. So there's different ways you can study the market. As you know, this is more your field than mine. So I'm happy for me to be ignorant and you say that I'm wrong. So what I've done is I've gone onto the little charts. I've looked like for a year, and I've done a bit of research on the companies. I've sort of seen the trends. So for instance, Nvidia, for instance, they're basically
computer chips.
Yeah. So obviously, doing a bit of research, I realized that there was issues with Mercedes, etc. So I said to myself, they do computer chips. It's likely that these guys are going to go up at some point. So I invested some money in them about a few months ago. I made about £800. So I took the money out. Then they dropped, and I thought, okay, us trading 101 guys who mean that we don't know much, like myself, I would just see a drop and think, okay, it's dropped.
Let me tell you,
go on.
Everyone knows something. I learned so much from my beginners because you're an expert in what you know in your day-to-day, your hobbies, in your partying, what you drink. You're an expert. Everyone's an expert in something, right? I'm an expert in price. And when I say that, I mean logical reasoning to know what is because for me, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about taking decisions that gave me a good probability of being right and a low probability of being wrong. That's it, right? Calculated risks, right? Some people care about how much money they made, but you could have made, one of the biggest mistakes you can make is to make a lot of money doing the wrong process, because then you now think you know it.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, but maybe it was just a fluke. It was just by chance it worked. So you try and do it again, and that's what I've done now. So I won. And
that's
then
most people. That is the everyday investor.
I'm losing bad.
But the thing with stocks, right? You're only out if the company goes bankrupt. Otherwise, you've invested in a company the same way it's like buying a house and the value goes down. Quite rare, but you've invested in a business that's going through a hard time, right? What I do with my coaching is the decision making. So when you looked at Nvidia and you said, you know, at that point where you're like, I'm getting in, I'm going to stop you. I'll ask you questions. I'm going to say, if you weren't buying Nvidia, what else would you be buying? And then you might have another favorite stock beyond me, whatever. And I'll say, okay, cool. And again, then you might have 10 stocks that you've done your research, done the charts, and they all look like good buys. And I'm going to say, pick your best three. That introduces another layer of thought, right? If I said to you, you can only pick 3 out of your best 10 with whatever method you've used, which 3 are you going for? And then you might find Nvidia ain't there, right? And then I might give you which will be my best 3 out of your 10, and I'll tell you my reasons. And maybe, let's say if 2 of them match, that's another layer of thought. Yeah, and it's this extra layer of thought that can be the difference between. And then what if I said to you, what if Nvidia drops 70% in the next 6 months? What would you do then? If you don't have an answer for me, I will have an answer for you.
I've just learnt now, see with stocks, I've just learnt now, this is my own thing, that when it drops, I just leave it. Because I've already said in my head, the money I've put there in my head, I've already written off. Like the money that this money
that
that's in here now.
70% there. You know the last 30%? If you buy a stock at $10, right, and you've got 2,000 for that stock, right, and you have the same approach, and it drops to $1, right, that's 90% down, and you have that approach and say, I'm just going to leave it, right? Scenario A. What if I told you that same $2,000, put only 1K at that price you like, and save another 1K for a rainy day, right? If it drops to 1, you put another 1K in. Do you know what your average price is?
Yeah, because it drops. Because if it goes back up now, it balances itself out.
What's your average price?
All that maths, I don't know.
Don't do the maths. I don't want you to do the maths. What comes to your mind naturally? You bought 1,000 at 10. You bought 1,000 at 1. Roughly, if like 3 seconds to answer.
10%. That's like 10% of something. Because one.
No, your average price. So like you spent it at $10, $1.
5.
That's what the average person says, right? Roughly 5, right? But that would be roughly 5 if you bought the same amount of shares twice. But you're spending. So at $1 or £1, call it £1, you're getting 1,000 shares. At £10, you're getting 100 shares. In total now, you've got 1,100, right? Your average price is actually 1.8.
Okay.
So it doesn't even need to get back to 10. By the time it's at 4, you doubled your money.
Okay. And you balanced out
strategy. Right?
But then there's the but though. I guess that's for you now to look at the stock or look at the trends and see whether you feel this is going to go back up. Because once again, I guess if it drops again,
If it has to go back up to where it started, or just from above your average price.
Yeah. So what you
different
would say in
things.
this essence now with all of my rubbish that's going on now?
You would have had a budget before you got in.
My budget was,
And then we would have decided how you're going to spend that budget before you got in. And you would have known what the rough average price would be at each stage before you even got in. You would have done your scenario analysis already before you bought the first time.
But is it fair to say though that as much as trading is calculated risk, as you're saying, there is no guarantees.
There's no guarantee in anything.
That no. I don't want you to do politician and say anything. Don't say anything. Let's talk specifically in your field.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that it's a calculated risk and there's no guarantee
There's no guarantee of...
of you making any money from this?
How about the people who've been on S&P 500 for like...
No, wait, one second. I wanted to
There
answer
are-
this question.
there
I
are
wanted to
some-
answer this question
there are some
people watch this
guarantees.
channel, and I want you to, as someone who's in trading, and
yeah.
people are watching this, is it fair to say that there are calculated risks? Yes. However, there is no guarantee.
There is
So
no
if,
guarantee.
If I throw my money in that,
And I'll tell you why there's no guarantee. Because human beings are not good at following the rules. It's often what stops that
Yes, my
guarantee.
friend, you're still doing
No!
You're doing hickey hacker,
No!
bro. I'm not gonna
Okay,
come and do this.
okay, what
Listen,
about I tell you
no.
this?
Just
If
keep
you-
it-
okay,
just
how
keep
about
it
I tell you
real.
this?
I like keeping things a buck 100
Okay,
here.
what about... Bro,
Everyone wants to escape the Matrix.
Like, just answer the question.
okay, how about I tell you
Everyone's
this?
Neo.
If you buy a UK government bond, right, that's paying you 2%, right, you're guaranteed money because it's fixed income. They will pay you that. If you leave money in your bank account, you are guaranteed a 0.0001%, right? Likewise, if you look at history, if you invest in an index, this is hands-free investing now, right? History has shown that on average, every single year for the past 30 to 40 to 50 years, you are averaging 7-8%, right? So if you follow that, I can say with 95% probability, there's a guarantee that you will make a return on your money better than leaving it in the bank,
So
right?
S&P 500, for instance.
Yes.
What does that mean for those who don't know? What
Okay, so if a stock is a fruit, an index is like a smoothie.
Okay, cool. So it's been broken down into...
Different fruits, different properties, all mixed together, right? So if you look at something like the FTSE 100, that is your 100 biggest companies in the UK,
Okay.
right? When you buy an index, instead of having to go buy Tesco and buy Sainsbury's and buy Marks and Spencer, you can just buy the smoothie, which already has the, you know, when you look at the back and it will tell you the
So
percentages.
basically all of those companies into one place, basically.
Yeah, but not equal measure. Different. They've all got different percentage weightings. You know, you look at the back of a smoothie and you see different percentages like that. But what you're doing there is you're taking a view on the country. So you're now investing in the UK, right? In a preset, it's like a UK smoothie, right? So if the country goes down, you should expect your index to go down. But there are some, here's another thing. There are some stocks that when the country does badly, they hold up. There's some stocks that when the country goes bad, even if the stock is a good company, it will follow it.
Okay.
And if a bad company has a good correlation with the country, it can even go up in value, right? That property, that personality type of the stock is called beta, right?
As in
The average-
BETA.
BETA. The average person don't even check beta before they got in. Did you check beta before you bought Nvidia? No. Right? So you don't even know the relationship between Nvidia and America and the S&P 500, right? Which is the biggest 500 stocks in America. My job is to bring that knowledge to you so your decisions are more informed. That's all I'm doing, right? Because I know you didn't look at beta because I've worked in the bank. I know about beta. How are you going to know about beta? But then how do I break beta down to you, right? And I've done that. Right?
So what you're in essence saying is that basically it's like you're a coach.
I'm a
in regard.
coach.
So
I
basically,
do what Chizo does.
So basically, you don't tell people what to buy.
No.
You basically give them coaching on trading to understand the routes and methods that they can go through to have a bit more of an
Basically that.
oversight of what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you've clearly made losses.
Yeah.
Okay. Which means obviously.
But I show them as well. I show every single transaction I've made in the market on entry. So I don't just show a profit or show a loss. People follow me on the journey on every single stock. There's some stocks that I was red for 3 years and then I've done that averaging thing, out profit. People have seen that for 3 years. And it's like in the background, like, Debs, how about this stock? And I said, yeah, if it gets to that price, I'm buying. If it doesn't, I'll leave it alone. I know my plan and I follow my
And what
plan.
sort of losses have you made?
There was a stock recently I was down like 5k on,
Okay.
right?
And how much did you put in?
About 10.
Okay.
But it's
What was the reason why it dropped? 'Cause I wanna just
China.
educate people.
China.
Okay.
So China come out randomly, right? The stock is Metex. China came out randomly, and this is how my phone pings. China come out randomly and said, you know what? We're going to change the online education industry. There's too many billionaires.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, there's too many billionaires.
Yeah.
I prepare people for uncertainty, right? Too many billionaires. So you know what? All your businesses are not allowed to make a profit every year, which is why you invested in the stock in the first place.
Why would you want to stop?
It's communism, innit?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know what?
But
It
the
kills
thing is,
competition.
It kills competition, but at the same time, you would want your people to be more successful because you see the rest of the world is more.
But that's the point. They're like, you know what? It's turned into money now. You lot aren't thinking about educating the people,
Yeah.
right? So you know what? You're charities now, right?
Yeah.
So as an investor, obviously you got in because you're taking a view the company's even going to make a profit in the future, so on and so forth. And that stock had social media because they're on TikTok. They were educated via TikTok. They had crypto because they were introducing crypto into it. It was exposure to China. It was killing, and killing 4 birds with 1 stone is why I bought the stock. That was the decision behind it, right? And we got it at really low prices, really low.
I guess you
prices.
couldn't preempt that, could you? And
And strategy helps you deal with uncertainty. So let's say I say, you know what, you should never have more than 20% exposure in an industry or a specific stock in your portfolio, right? Last year, right, let's talk about losses. 2 stocks that I had went bankrupt.
you say bankrupt, and
Gone!
as in the company's
Gone!
So you were looking at it like,
Gone!
Oh, so when that happens, so when a company goes bankrupt, then obviously
lose
there's
your-
everything's gone.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yeah.
Not technically, everything's gone.
But my strategy held it.
Okay, being
But
what?
more importantly, people saw me. People saw that journey and saw how it held it and saw how I still made 129% return on the year. Right? With 2 stocks going bankrupt, gone, the
So
money.
basically what you're saying is that you may have made a loss on that one, but the other ones you had invested in basically balanced it out and made you.
And even the decision making behind getting into those stocks, I knew that these were high risk plays. And I have this rule, very simple. If I'm up on the year, if I've already made 50% on the year, then I take maybe 20% of that. That's my pot for high risk investing,
Okay.
right?
So you've got
those
like
stocks-
you always have an exit strategy, basically.
not always, right? But 80% of the time,
'Cause
because stocks are they're businesses.
And they're volatile, right?
What I have is an approximate exit strategy, and
They're
that's it.
volatile, right?
Yeah. Some are, some aren't. Some are, some. Look at people, bro. Not everyone has a. You know what? Yeah.
listen.
Not everyone has a temper.
Listen. All right. Listen, okay.
Right?
First of all, I clearly I can always smell a. I know you're not one, and I'll tell you if you was. I don't miss my words. We can do camera, whatever. I genuinely believe you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be honest. I genuinely believe it. And the only thing that I have a slight contention with, sir, is that sometimes when we ask,
surprising you cross your
sometimes I'm just about to. Sometimes when we ask direct questions, okay. Sometimes I like a yes or no answer, and I like to phrase questions in a way where it is a yes or no. So if I say to you, is trading,
gambling?
Is it a form of glorified gambling? You say to me, any business you open is gambling, which is true. But I'm talking specifically about trading.
Trading,
Yes, and investing. Because for
trading,
instance-
yes. Investing, no.
Okay, so what you're technically saying now is that there's 2 forms of
Trying to make a return on your money.
So trading is, let's call trading the umbrella, and within trading you've got investing. So it's like saying you've got religion and you've got other subsectors. So the whole umbrella thing is technically called trading, but in trading you've got investment as a form of trading, and you've got day trade. So there are different forms of trading in trading.
I say investing is the umbrella.
Umbrella,
And
okay.
Short-term investing is trading because when I trade, right, I'm doing it because I'm making money that I need to spend, right? Afro Nation, Ghana in December, whatever. When I'm investing, that money, I'm not withdrawing it.
Okay.
It's compounding. If you can make 20% every year on a pot of money, right, it will double every 4 years.